Hey, this is Kyle Stowers, and you're listening to Fish on First.
Fish on First live on the Foul Territory Network, presented by Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida. It's a Marlins series loss, their first of the season after, of course, facing the Rockies and White Sox. The Yankees are a little bit of a different animal. The Marlins did a mixed bag, we'll say, series wide. We'll get to all of it. What happened in each game, how the Marlins beat themselves on some of these occasions, how they lost to what is likely going to be a very good Yankees team this year. But we're going to go in reverse order, and we're going to start with the win. The Marlins scratched it out today on a weird day. What was supposed to be a 1 o'clock start turns into a 5 o'clock start. They move off of starting Chris Paddock and start Pete Fairbanks, who has a personal matter going on. But at the end of the day, the Marlins win by a run against the Yankees and salvage one game of winning a sweep. Let's get started with this. Pete Fairbanks starts the game. Again, weird moment. His first start in years. Of course, known as a closer, needs to get into a game and get on a plane real quick. So they throw him out there. Not a great inning. He was great until today, obviously in relief. But in this start, I mean, I guess we could maybe just chalk it up to an awkward day, a long day for the Marlins, and just maybe his mind on other things. But let's break down this. It's just one inning, but break it down real quick. Kevin, go ahead. Pete Fairbanks, allowing that 3-run home run, stood up for a while for the Yankees, but again, maybe just chalking this up to an awkward experience for Fairbanks.
First of all, wow, we have almost the entire staff on here. This is amazing, unexpected, but great final game. It was a lot of fun. This one was actually a lot of fun, unlike what Clayton said in game 2 of the series. But it was weird. Started off weird. Fairbanks gets the start as an opener. Congratulations to him. He's gonna have his 3rd kid, and wasn't great. Gave up the 3-run homer to Ben Rice to kick things off. Then it was even weirder. Andrew Nardi came in. Many thought it was going to be Chris Paddock, but I guess in that moment of the game, it made sense to go with the lefty there to get out of it. Did fine in that one inning of work. And then Chris Paddock really came in and was good. I mean, much better than that first start against the White Sox. And despite walking 4, still kept the Yankees scoreless. And he was good. It was one under. I believe the one run he did give up was unearned. But he was good. And this offense really continued to pound Max Fried and eventually got to the Yankees' pen. Graham Pauley, huge hit. Couldn't have asked. And then Xavier Edwards on a 9-game hit streak, another multi-hit game. Had one to begin in the first inning, then again to really put those insurance runs in there and make it a 7-4 game, what it was at the time. This was a fun game, a lot of fun. I thought it was well managed by Clayton, unlike the first 2, which we'll get into at later on. But right decisions were made at the right time. There's not much you could do. I'm sure Fairbanks would have been the closer had he been available in that final inning. But Bender Yanks made things interesting, but Bender able to close it out, and you're able to salvage this one. And 6-3 now, going into a 4-game homestand against what's a pretty solid Reds team. So should be a fun week of Marlins baseball, and get the Reds and then get the Tigers. So doesn't get much easier from here. You already played the worst 2 teams in baseball, so everything from here is going to be pretty tough.
Break it to Paddock real quick, Kevin. You just mentioned him, and I think pretty decent today. I thought better than the line, as you guys all know, in the first start. This one, we were just talking about it before we started. It kind of evens out, right? Where your luck, just baseball, your luck just evens out. He got really, really unlucky in the first start. This start, I think, maybe a bit lucky to allow the 4 walks and not give up an earned run. The run that he gave up was unearned. 3 hits, gets the 4 strikeouts. Eli, go to you. Thoughts on Paddock in this one? Do you think better, worse, about the same than that first outing? Obviously, the result is better for the Marlins, but just quick thoughts on how you thought Paddock did today.
About the same, just to be very concise here. Where like with him, you kind of summed it up pretty well. I'll just point out how even with the way that this played out, it was very uncharacteristic of him to walk that many guys as they did. It was contagious. Whatever was going on with their lack of control was contagious. It infected everybody on this entire staff that pitched during the course of these 3 games in terms of the lack of control that they had. With him, I imagine that's going to be the highest walk total that he will allow at any point over the course of the season in any particular game. When he's going to struggle, it's going to be because of some issues that popped up during his previous start, and some that you can even see in this outing. There were a couple really crushed balls, one by Judge to center field, and then one by Stanton towards the end of that outing towards like left fields that left a dent in the wall at like 116 miles per hour. The launch angle not quite high enough to get over the wall. And I remember they were able to squeeze out of that inning without allowing any runs. So in key situations, he was able to execute better than in others, where I think all things considered, you need to give him some credit for allowing no earned 1 run total and 4 2/3 overall. Like, yeah, so it helps a little bit, but I was kind of on board in the first place that, that previous start, you saw flashes in the previous start as well, those first couple innings before it kind of went haywire there. I know there's going to be a lot of impatience with him just because of the lack of results he had last season. And of course, just the fact that they have the temptation to see what this next wave of arms looks like in the upper minors as well. So he really needed this in terms of the bottom line results, regardless of what it looks like under the hood. He kind of needed people to calm down, where he's going to get a long leash. We've seen how the Marlins have handled their free agent signings the last few years, that even when they're awful, they get months and months to try to turn it around. Eric Wagman was on the roster for the entire season last season. Cal Quantrill was on the roster deep into August. Even turning back to Tim Anderson, he was there for more than half of the season overall. He's going to get a long leash for better or for worse.
The only difference here, though, is that there are guys in the minors that are ready to come up. Maybe not now, but within the month. Like last year, I don't know who he would have brought up if Cal Quantrill was absolutely garbage in April and May. But now you've got Snelling. Soon enough, you'll have White. Not this month, but maybe in the next few months. And then, of course, you have Braxton Garrett, who is most likely just there to get stretched out. Like he could be up in the next month if Paddock is really, really not doing well. But I do agree that today's start was fine. It's just in terms of that, I don't think that he will necessarily have a long leash because he doesn't have to have a long leash.
He was giving up a lot of hard contact as well. He was giving up too. I mean, a lot of hits that really looked like they were going to go out. They didn't, just the way that ballpark plays a little bit and the wind was moving. But a lot of hard contact today for Paddock as well. And that's a very tough lineup. So I'm not surprised. But yeah, I mean, the walks aren't great, but overall, I mean, you got to give the guy credit. When in there's a situation that he woke up not thinking he was going to be in whatsoever, and gives you, 4 2/3 of no run ball, you'll take that any day of the week. From if that's what Chris Paddock gives you throughout most of the season, that is a fine signing for the Marlins. It was probably the best one for Peter Bednick so far. If that is what you get for most of the season.
Yeah, I was a big fan of what I saw from Paddock today. Like you mentioned, Kevin, in a situation that he hadn't really done before. He had come out of the bullpen before, but in this openers situation, it's sort of new to him. And like you said, he woke up this morning thinking he was going to be starting at 1:10 p.m., coming in a relief at 6 o'clock at night. So very encouraging after the start that he had in his Marlins debut. And yeah, I'm not going to think that he's going to throw 200 innings for Miami this year, but it's nice to see that he was able to get some big outs in a really tough environment as in Yankee Stadium.
We're going to get to the unfortunate of the first 2 games of this series, but I want to go mention one more huge positive all series long, including today, Xavier Edwards. Xavier Edwards has been arguably one of the best players in baseball. 7 hits in this series. He has a home run and 2 doubles, some big hits basically in every game. That kind of just kept the Marlins alive, especially in this one tonight. So I'm going to go to Nate. This is your guy. Tell me about it. Xavier Edwards, great series for him, great start. Ironically, the Blue Wahoos got absolutely shellacked by the guy that they traded the Rays, one of the guys that they traded to the Rays to get Edwards. But when you look at what Edwards is doing right now, I don't think that matters too much or matters for a can of beans, as our friend Isaac would say. So, Xavier Edwards, go ahead. Tell me about it.
Yeah, what happened in Pensacola today, wherever they played, it doesn't matter. The way Ats is playing right now, he's playing like an all-star second baseman, and not just with the stick. He stole his second base of the year today, which is what I've really been personally wanting to see from him ever since his rookie year. And at second base, just pretty much starting where he left off in 2025, has been playing a great second base since he made that switch with Otto. He's got really good versatility. He can move quick. And obviously the shorter throws are going to be a lot easier for him. And just the way he started this year, if you guys remember in 2025, he pretty much led off every game. And he was popping a lot of things up. I remember, like, I think early April, around this time last year, we were talking about potentially moving him down in the order. And I don't think, I mean, he's been hitting seventh for whatever reason. Again, I don't know what it's going to take for him to move up against lefties, against righties. The guy can hit. It doesn't matter. The splits. I guess the side thing is Marlins just hate lefty for whatever reason. It doesn't matter if a guy has reverse splits like Griffin Conine. It doesn't matter. That's a whole other can of worms to get into. But yeah, the way Etz is playing, Eli tweeted it out. He's been one of the most valuable players in baseball thus far. 2 outs, no outs. He's clutch. He's going to do it for you. And hopefully this week, just this entire homestand against the Reds and the Tigers, he'll be leading off, because when he gets on, he's the table setter. He's a guy that he is the perfect guy. I think he's better than Arise. The Marlins have been talking about it. That's why they dealt him, because they had confidence in Edwards, and he's a switch hitter. He's better in the field, and he has better speed. He is the exact guy you want to lead off your order every single day of the week. So can't ask for more from Mets. As a resident Xavier Edwards supporter, I could not be more happy with how he started the season.
He's much better than Arise. And what concerns me is that we all I don't think any of us like him hitting seventh, but the fact that he's been up at such pivotal moments in the game, hitting seventh against lefties, I don't think they're ever going to change. Like, I don't know. You want him to continue having a little bit of bounce, because if he's hitting at the top of the lineup like we want, those 7, 8, 9 spots are going to people less attractive than X. And then so I don't know. Maybe there is something to be said about. But no, I think at the end of the day, you want your better hitters getting as many at-bats as possible. I guess it just so happened that the number 7 spot came up in some pretty pivotal spots in today's game. But I don't know. It seems like they're going to stick to that decision for the time being.
Yeah, not including today. 929 OPS against left-handed pitching. Early on, obviously, things will change, but I mean, it's a result that you're getting early on that's really good. I mean, this guy needs to be leading off. The fact that they have Austin Slater leading off against left-handed pitching is insane to me. I think it's as simple as it's as simple as swapping Slater and Edwards in the lineup. It doesn't get easier than that. Even then, if they want Slater to get left-handed left-handed at bats against left-handed pitching, just put him up a little bit higher. It doesn't need to be all the way at the bottom, but he had the 2 hits today. But Edwards is one of the best table setters in baseball. Use him for that, and he's going to steal some bases, and he's going to be a guy who's going to be in scoring position pretty quickly for you to set up guys like Gus and Marcy and Casey in the lineup.
And it might be time for other guys to grow up and take Etz's spot, maybe 7, 8, 9 in the order, get some clutch hits, because Etz has been doing it. He's going on his 3rd year now. Maybe it's time for some of the younger guys to replace him. I don't care if it's a righty or lefty. Guys like Burt, guys like Norby, that, hey, we need you in these clutch situations. It's time to come through, which clearly both of them, not to throw shade on those two, but after what we've seen the first week now, that they definitely need to work on as well.
We've been talking about extension candidates and who's the next guy that the Marlins will try to approach for an extension. We've talked about Yuri Perez, ship's price sailed. We've talked about Marcy. It's a possibility. What about Xavier Edwards? Club controlled until 2030, arbitration eligible next year. If you do it now, not saying they are going to, but if you do it now, you got to buy out probably all 3 arbitration years. But I mean, you got 4 more years left. Is this a possibility, Isaac?
Doubtful. He's 26 years old. I think he's not even. Peter Bennings was the one that brought him in. Obviously, he's immensely talented. He just doesn't seem like the type of player that the Marlins would extend. Maybe on another team they would, but the Marlins, I think they got to save their extensions for their really blue chip guys. And as good as Xavier Edwards is, I'm not sure if he fits that category for Miami. You mentioned he's not a free agent until 2030. So I think in this case, you enjoy him for the next 3-4 years in his prime, and then I think you let some other team take him on. He doesn't strike me as an extension candidate. I will ask, but that's not a name that I've heard at all.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of interesting elements to that. One of them is that he is, as good as he is defensively, he is defensively limited at one particular position. He plays second base. He plays at a very high level, but doesn't have the optionality and the versatility, whatever buzzword you want to use, that the Marlins appreciate from guys at other positions because of his lack of arm strength being that main limitation at other spots. So that's one factor there. Also, just the general supply of second baseman. It is a position where there are a lot of different players that could fake it at second base in various ways, even if most of them are going to be a step down defensively from him. That's a position that historically doesn't get paid massive bucks. There are a few exceptions, but by and large, you don't see those guys really break the bank just because of that understanding about how many different sorts of players, whether they're natural second baseman or not, could learn and go into that position. The other element to it is that he actually is going to get decently expensive pretty quickly because of the arbitration process and the way that it rewards players like X, guys that have really high batting averages, guys that steal a lot of bases. Those are numbers that get rewarded pretty well in arbitration pretty early on. So he'll be eligible for the first time next year, meaning that, the timing for this conversation really is pretty pressing, actually, even though they do have club control well beyond that. He's a guy that will get a very nice bump, I would imagine, as long as he stays healthy over the course of this season. That's one other thing that goes into it. Ultimately, I kind of arrive at the same place as Isaac, where to me, I think it's kind of unlikely, all things considered, that they'll just absolutely love what they're getting from him to this point. Like, it shouldn't be overlooked the fact that when they acquired him at the time, that wasn't a trade that in the moment looks like a huge steal. And I think, Carver, you had noticed that on the other side of that deal, the Rays themselves may still have something good coming out of that on the other side from Santiago Suarez, who's a pitcher in their pipeline that might not be that far away from being a stud at the big league level as well. So it's, all things considered, I think the Marlins just have to absolutely enjoy every moment of this. And just to sign off on what a lot of other obvious people are saying, that for the foreseeable future, he should be getting as many plate appearances as anybody on this team because of how well he's hitting on both sides of the plate.
Yeah, I think there are candidates ahead of him still, even if as good as he has been. I think I kind of agree with Isaac on the blue chip guys, the younger guys. Not that Edwards is old, he's not, but you want those prime years. If you're going to pay a guy for the prime years, you want all of them under contract. So I get what you're saying. And I kind of do arrive at the same conclusion that it's probably unlikely, but I mean, I don't think I have the question. I just think unlikely. We'll go on. Let's talk about this. We'll get into that's the good probably portion of our show today. We'll get into the not so good part of the show. I'll go back to yesterday's game. It's Saturday's game. The Marlins lose 9-7 in a weird game. As weird as today was with the scheduling of things, yesterday's game was just, you couldn't write some of the stuff. But we started with Max Meyer. And I personally thought not bad. Didn't allow a run until his final inning. He pitched into the fifth. I don't think he had full command, and I don't think pitch calling did him any favors. But I'm going to go Daniel on this one. Daniel, Max Meyer, second start of the year, takeaways on this one.
Yeah, I think you kind of go back before you mentioned about Chris Paddock. You always have to look at how guys do against this Yankees lineup and just looking at it. But I know the home run kind of inflates some of his stats there, as well as the walks. But having 6 strikeouts from seeing from Max is very good to see, especially with what we say about Max and him having maybe only one really good pitch, maybe 2 at most. To see what he did against the Yankees lineup and giving them exactly similar to Paddock 4 2/3 innings. I don't think there's anything more you can ask for him. And he's slowly proving maybe his point to us that he can start against teams. He could be a starter, especially if you're doing it against a team like the Yankees. You'd like to see what he could do more on in the season. But I think if you had to grade it, I would give him like a solid B. I think it was like a B minus performance by Max.
That's the concern, because I was pleasantly surprised with how he pitched last night. And even though he was really, really solid, this is sort of like the ceiling for him in a good start. He didn't even finish 5 innings. Yeah. And even if, let's say, he was a little bit better than he was yesterday, because we have seen him better than that, he's never going to really go into the 7th inning. Very rarely, if any. So that's why, Crutch, you mentioned earlier, all the guys that are already in the minor leagues, I think Miami would be doing him such a favor to turn him into a dominant long man in the bullpen, but not long man in low leverage situations. A guy that can bridge you from the 7th inning on and be really valuable in that way. Because
can I ask you something, Isaac? Really quick. Sorry to interrupt. Sure. Would you have liked it better if they switched the roles between Max and Chris Paddock? I know, let's just say, hindsight is 20/20, but maybe Paddock starting that game and you have Max come in after Pete Fairbanks. Is that like the best?
So you mean changing the rotation, like the order of the rotation? Because
would that be a better role for Max? Him coming out
in any opener situations where you have Fairbanks or any reliever starting the game, I think Meyer would really benefit from a situation like that. I think a lot of starting pitchers would, including Paddock. But Meyer seems like the perfect guy if he starts in the second or third inning, that really bridges you a lot longer than if you start in the first. You're going to face the lineup 3 times. He just doesn't strike me as someone that's going to be a really successful starting pitcher long term. I hope we're wrong. I think yesterday was a very good showing in a really tough environment. It was getting very cold. It started feeling like 38 degrees towards the later parts of the game. So it's not an easy situation for him to pitch in, even though he is from Minnesota. He is somewhat used to it. And it was encouraged, like I said, with his start yesterday. But it was 4 2/3 at the end of the day. And I like starting pitchers that go 6 or 7.
And it wasn't much better after that, right? Because the bullpen walked so many guys.
They ended up
walking 11. They walked, 11 guys. I mean, Marty walked 3. Michael Peterson, who was pitching in a very, very high leverage situation, by the way, walked 3. Fauché walked 1. Meyer walked 3. So the bullpen in total walked like 7 guys. So
they made me look really silly.
A lot of us.
I had to tell my girlfriend's dad that the best part of this team was the bullpen. I'm seeing him for the first time in person, and then there you go, walking 10, 15 guys in front of my face, and I look like an idiot. So it's tough series throwing strikes for this whole pitching staff, not just the bullpen, but overall, it was a nightmare. They're very lucky to have secured.
Let's talk about why this bullpen struggled, or one of the big reasons that I think why the bullpen struggled. And I mentioned it earlier. But pitch calling in this game was just a nightmare. I will say it outright that the way that they called this game from the dugout was not good. Probably the worst one that I've seen, personally. Krutchik, talk to me about this. You have Max Meyer. His best pitch is a slider. We know that Giancarlo can't hit sliders, and you're throwing the guy changeups. What happened here? We know this whole bullpen calling thing. They did it in AAA. They brought it to the majors. It, I think, has been good, and pitchers have said that they have liked it. You also have a catcher in Augustin Ramirez, who I don't think will ever be ready to call a game the traditional way. We can get to his other flaws after this in a second. But I just want to mention quickly on the pitch calling. Did you think it was as bad as I thought it was?
You're muted, Krutchik.
I don't know if Krutchik can hear me.
I think he froze.
Uh-oh.
No, he's there.
Sorry, you guys. My Wi-Fi is terrible. Pitch calling was awful. Giancarlo Stanton's scouting report has been pretty much the same for the last 10 years. We all know, throw them sliders, throw them low and away. Whether you throw them low and away or high and in, throw them a slider. That's all you have to do. And I guess when Clayton and his team came in, they did not get those scouting reports. But yeah, it was just weird. They were throwing pitches to Stanton that he was able to hit. And then the catching situation was pretty terrible too. I was thoroughly disappointed, especially that 8th inning where Augustin Ramirez took 3 seconds to get out of his stance and finally throw over to second when Stanton stole. And then, of course, there's the pitch off the glove of Augustine. It looked like a cross-up between him and Peterson. I don't know if it was a cross-up or if it was just thrown in the wrong location, but either way, an average catcher is able to catch that. The ball firmly hit his mitt, but it went off the outer lip of it and then went to the backstop. It was just a terrible game from behind the dish and from the dugout.
I want to give you your chance, Kevin, because I know you've been waiting. I'm going to be brief on the first game because the only thing I really have to talk about is Yuri. So I want to let you go ahead on Augustin Ramirez. The good 5 ABS challenges correct. It was great. Awesome. That's exactly why it's there. You can basically change the game with doing that the correct way. And I was quite surprised that he was able to do that. So that is awesome. Great work with the ABS challenge system with how new it is as well. I mean, it was awesome. Good to see. But like Krutchik was just talking about, this not getting out of the stance, the pass ball that goes through his legs that should have been blocked, and then that ball that just goes off of his catcher's glove, just changing the game in a negative direction for this team. How much longer can the Marlins deal with this, especially when you have Joe Mack nipping at his heels?
I mean, if I'm being totally honest, that game on Saturday was probably his first bad game of the year behind the plate. Now, he hadn't caught that many games, but that was bad. I mean, it's not even the fact that he had the pass balls. It's when the pass balls occurred, which were in the bottom of the 7th when Stanton got that. I believe that was a Stanton stolen base or whatever. Yeah, the Stanton stolen base. And
we'll get to that.
And he scored. And then in the bottom of the 8th, Ben Rice scored which was I believe, just an insurance run at that point. But I mean, you look at what the Marlins did in the ninth, they almost had it. And had that run not scored from Ben Rice, you're looking at, I think, maybe a tie game in the ninth, and you're looking at extra innings potentially for the Marlins. So it was not good. It was not good. It was not a well-caught game by Ramirez. I know they're trying to give him a lot of grace. I know people were saying he was actually good. I'm pretty sure they even talked to him post-game. It wasn't great. I mean, the good part was clearly the 5-for-5 ABS. That was great. You cannot say anything outside of, wow, like they're really good. And then on the flip side, the Yankees were terrible with the ABS this weekend. Ben Rice on that opening day game for the Yankees, or a home opener against the Yankees, had a strike call middle, and he challenged it. And it clearly was wrong. And there are many other points in the game. The Marlins were perfect up until the very end there with Liam Hicks today. Got two of them wrong. I think he was just using them to, in hopes that they would get just overturned. But yeah, no, Saturday was tough. I mean, you got to put that one on Augustine. Those pass balls were terrible, especially in the moments that they came in. But no, and the Stanton stolen base. That's one of the lowest moments of the season by far. I know Clayton spoke post game. He did say, I know Clayton spoke post game and said that was on him. He blamed himself for that, thinking that Mike Stanton wouldn't have ran there. But I mean, Stanton, as bad as it looked, he stole a base for the first time, I think, in 6 years. The last one was in 2020. So yeah, no, bad.
I mean, he doesn't have two working hamstrings.
I mean, apparently he can't even open a bag of chips. So yeah, no, that was bad. It wasn't a great day for Gus. I know people would say otherwise because of the challenges, but outside of that, I mean, two pass balls and two of the most crucial points of the game cannot happen. And again, that was his first bad game of the year. I don't know how much longer you give Gus behind the plate. I don't think he's been terrible all year. That Saturday game was just a bad one, and it happens to any catcher. It happened to Nick Fortes when he was on the Marlins at points. It happens to Liam Hicks. I think he's a solid catcher. Joe Mack, I don't know what type of start he's gotten off to in Jacksonville exactly, but I know defensively you could always count on Mack, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. Liam Hicks definitely made things a little bit interesting with this catching situation just because of how good he's been offensively. And you're assuming Christopher Morello should be back soon. So by then you got to make your assumptions on what you're going to do with that situation behind the plate and what you're going to do with Joe Mack.
With Gus, I'll just say at the end that he's an interesting guy because there's also the offensive component too. I was very high on his bat entering this year, and the issue now is he's hitting everything on the ground. So he entered today with a 59% ground ball rate, which was like last year was high, and last year was in the mid 40s, which is well above average. But so far this year, way problematic in a way that no matter how hard he hits it, he's not going to be doing enough on that end to take some of the stress off what's going on defensively. But to answer your rhetorical question about Mack, he has gone off to a very slow start himself offensively down in Jacksonville, and that's taking some of the pressure off of this situation. So it's a really small sample so far this year with him, all things considered. I think it's going to be a number of weeks until there's any possibility that we see some kind of shake up there. But in the meantime, I think you'll see Hicks and Gus almost right down the middle, splitting the catching reps, which I think would have surprised people if you asked them even late last season. It took until the very end when Gus was really slumping that it became somewhat of an even timeshare there. But in the meantime, I think the way that Hicks has performed better than we would have imagined at any moment, that he has certainly earned a whole lot of reps moving forward with this team. But yeah, I think we're going to be looking at this pretty closely moving forward. A whole lot more to get to from the end of this series and then looking ahead to what comes next for the Marlins here on FOF Live. As always, we need to shout out our flagship sponsors of jet ski rentals of South Florida, offering Miami's best jet ski and boat adventures with 6 jet ski locations and over 120 boats. There's something for every style and every budget. Ride jet skis right in front of the downtown skyline and Ferris wheel, or book your own private boat starting as low as $300 with a captain included in that. Bring your drinks, your friends, enjoy the water your way. The boat is completely yours for the time you reserve it. They're reservation-based only. To book, call 305-990-2192 or check them out online at sfjetskirentals.com. Make sure to use our special promo code FISHONFIRST, all one word, that gets you 10% off your next booking. Once again, 305-990-2192 or online at sfjetskirentals.com.
Maybe a nice day off on a jet ski for Yuri to flush that last start because, man, tough one. He's going to be pitching in this upcoming series against the Reds. But, man, let's just reflect really quickly on this past start. Eli, I know you were there. For Yuri Perez, who really struggled with his command, I don't think like anything we've ever seen, at least not for a very long time. 6 walks, only goes, 4 innings. Just a really tough outing for Yuri, and the Marlins never got going in that game, never really got out of the blocks. X hit the home run early, but the Yankees were just all over them after that. That was a drubbing. That was the worst game of the series. The Marlins were uncompetitive that game, and it started and I think ended with Yuri Perez. So Eli, why was this Yuri so different? You were there, you saw him pregame, you saw him postgame. Talk to me about Yuri. Hopefully he can get back from this.
It was instantly apparent to me that things were going to be a little wonky with him. Leadoff walk to start the game, and then he immediately after that allows a homer to Judge, and it really didn't improve much from there, even though he allowed only 2 additional runs from that point forward. This is just, it was an uncharacteristic struggle because we've seen worse starts overall from him. We've seen a couple of starts where he can't get out of the first inning. I remember being in crisis in like around Labor Day last year when he got killed by the Nationals in the game over there. And then if you go back to his rookie year, there was that game against the Braves that sticks out in my memory too, when that's the one where he really couldn't get out of even the first inning. And those are the ones where guys are hunting fastballs, and no matter how hard he throws, they're able to catch up to it. But in this case, it was just not being able to locate anything at all, including his fastballs. Almost all of his walk actually came on fastballs in this one, but he wasn't able to get his secondary pitches close enough either in order to get chases the way that he's used to as well. So it was really messy from start to finish in that particular way. He acknowledged the fact that it was colder than what he was used to. This was the coldest conditions that he'd pitched under as a big leaguer for sure. And probably, I think it was Carver that he thought of that probably going back to high Beloit in like 2021 is probably, and his stint there was very short with high Beloit anyway. So I don't even know if there was any occasions then when he was used to it, but compared to the other games of this series, that was actually the most comfortable conditions in that first game. It was a lot colder on Saturday in the second game, and today was both cold and really rainy, and just yucky overall. So like, that's not a valid excuse to me. I just think it was an anomaly, all things considered, that we'll have to see how it translates to his following start. The thing to keep in mind with the next start against the Reds is that the Reds have one of the highest walk rates in all of baseball. So if he is continuing to have control issues against them, the Reds haven't been scoring that many runs, but a lot of the ones that they do score have come as a result of being very disciplined as well. So they're not going to do him any favors if this for whatever reason carries over to that start.
I don't even think it's just him missing. Like when he's not locked with his fastball or his off speed, he's not just missing out of the zone. He's missing right in the wheelhouse of some guys. You saw it against the teams that they played early in the season. But he started against the Rockies just last week, and he was letting up balls just getting barreled. Some of them got lucky, some of them stay in the yard. But even then, you could tell like this guy, when he's not on, he's going to go strictly fastball. Even in Friday's game against the Yankees, he was 50% fastball. A lineup that good, they're going to sit on it and they're going to do exactly what they did. If he's not there, they're just going to take it and walk. And it doesn't stay for just his fastball as well. The one that he looked to Judge was a slider. It was an absolute cookie right down the middle, and Judge did what Judge does. So I think it's more than just missing and walking guys. I think Yuri has the spot. I don't care how good his fastball is, spin rate, whatever. I know statistically it's the best fastball in all of baseball, but if it's down the middle or it's in a certain guy's hot zone, they're going to hit it no matter what. So I'm a little concerned. I don't want to overreact too much, but it's something I noticed even throughout spring training that if you paint a fastball, it's different. But the way Yuri's been doing it is he's missing right on the plate, and his off speed hasn't improved much either. So something to look out. And this red series in the majors is going to be very important in my mind.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the body language either. When he starts missing consecutively and consistently, he just sort of lets it snowball at times. He's pretty fortunate that his stuff is so good, and he was ripping 99 to 100 in the fourth inning that he was able to get through that fourth inning and face Judge. What was it, the third time? And get through the fourth and give Miami some sort of length, because I thought that he was going to be taken out in that second inning immediately. Had he not just gotten a couple of quick outs, because he was walking guys. He hit Aaron Judge. and he sort of let things snowball a bit. So I think that that's one thing where I'd like to see a little bit of improvement on, is just trying to stay in the zone and not let things unravel for him, because when he doesn't walk 6 guys, technically 7 if you count the hit by pitch. It was just a suboptimal performance by Miami's phenom there.
Yeah, it's just the guy you're used to seeing getting those foolish swings, or, just purposely going out of the zone and getting swings. And only 18 of 84 pitches went for called strikes or whiffs, 21%. I would have to look it up, but I got to imagine that's probably a career low for him. That's just not good. 21% CSW. That's extremely low for a pitcher like Yuri Perez. If it's not a career low, it's got to be close. That's probably pretty much tells you all you need to know about Yuri, but he'll get back home against the Reds, who I just noted are a good offense. We're going to get to that in a second. The Marlins will have Jansen, Junk, and then back to the top with Sandy, Yuri, and then a TBD for the last game of the 4-game series. Nobody announced yet. Anybody want to, Isaac, I can go to you on this. Any guesses on who that could be? Any guesses on why it's not announced yet? I mean, we're 4 days away. What do you think's going on there?
It's going to be Max Meyer. He by all accounts, he came out of his start on Saturday fine, healthy, and he's not sure why it's TBD. He should be the guy on Thursday before they go to Detroit. This is a long stretch for Miami, man. That's why I'm surprised that I don't know what they're going to have to make a lot of roster moves here, despite obviously Fairbanks going on the paternity list. They're going to have to make some sort of move for tomorrow. And then if they continue just not getting a ton of innings from their starting pitchers, they're going to have to make some moves here, because they've got a long stretch coming. 4 at home against Cincinnati, 3 on the road against Detroit before you finally have an off day. Oh, no, you don't. You continue with the 3-game set in Atlanta. So this is going to be a brutal stretch for Miami. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Braxton Garrett up here at times. You see Ryan Gusto, perhaps. They're going to see a revolving door of starting pitchers, I think, over the next couple of weeks, because this is not going to be easy.
Well, and a roster move to be made, I would think, shortly, with Fairbanks expected to miss a few days. I don't think it's going to be a flashy roster move. I think it's probably going to be one of these more expendable 40-man roster guys that are on the 40-man roster that they just call up for some innings. Maybe a Ryan Gusto, maybe a Cade Gibson, an arm like that. Anybody have any thoughts on who this could be coming up for Fairbanks?
Yeah, I think it'll be Gibson most likely. Although I know the broadcast was mentioning potentially Gusto, who could give you a little bit more length, and they may need that, as Isaac has noted. Like, if you're going to get these short starts, you really don't know what you're going to get out of Jansen Junk tomorrow. It was a weird first start for him in that final, the series finale against Chicago. It was just a weird start for him. So I don't know. I think either Gusto or Cade Gibson seem to be the obvious choices here. The flashy one would be like a William Kempner or a Josh White, but I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they're ready. I don't think they're quite ready to burn those options yet. Unless, who knows? I don't know. Maybe they want to call up one of those guys and they think they're ready, and they get rid of someone else, like a Michael Peterson, once Fairbanks is back. But I don't see them doing that quite yet. It's too early for that, I think. So I think Gibson or Gusto seem to be the guys.
The way Clayton's been utilizing Nardi, and sometimes King, he's had King warming up pretty early in ball games. It would benefit them to have even a third lefty. We know how they managed last year with just 1 at times, sometimes 0. But having Gibson there would give them another guy that could also get right-handed hitters out from the left side. And we see with some of these lineups, including the Yankees, having another lefty arm would really help, especially if you're going to go with a rotation that's all right-handed. I would lean Gibson here. I don't know why. I don't think Gusto would make a lot of sense there, but we shall see, because Gibson could also give you 2 innings if need be. But we shall see. Should be announced tomorrow at some point.
Let's skip ahead to Tuesday. We will see Sandy Alcantara coming off of a historic performance, complete game shutout, his 13th of his career. He wants you to show up. He's going to be back at Lone Depot. He wants you to show up. He really wants his fans to be there for his next outing. So, Daniel, I have 2 questions. One, will they show up this time? And does Sandy continue his scoreless streak? It's been 16 innings so far with no runs. Does it continue against the Reds, who, as we've already noted, are a good team? They have good offense. Ellie De La Cruz. Maybe it's a Dane Myers revenge series. Who knows what's going to happen? But how do you think Sandy fares against Cincinnati?
To answer your first question about the attendance, I do think the attendance will go up. I don't think it'll go dramatically higher than last time, but I expect it to be around 10,000. The game's a little later in the day, so it should give the fans an opportunity to come in and see this matchup against the Reds and to see how Sandy will do it. He's not going to have a complete game. He's not going to have anything that note, but I think he will go 6 innings. I'm expecting 2 hits, 2 earned runs against the Reds. They do have, you mentioned Ellie De La Cruz, you mentioned Danny Myers, but the guy I would keep an eye on the most is South Stewart. He has been easily the best rookie in all of baseball and quite frankly been the best Reds player, has primarily been all of their offense as well. You look at their OPS, it's South Stewart at 1,200, and then the next one is, I believe, Ellie at like 750. So if you could stop maybe South Stewart, then you're able to get Ellie off in terms of strikeouts, and really everyone else, Eugenio Suarez, guys like that are really easy strikeout players. But I do think Sandy will have a really great start against the Reds, but I don't expect him to have a complete game or go 8 innings.
That's a homecoming too for South Stewart. I believe he went to Westminster Christian, I want to say. So it feels like every time a guy from South Florida comes back, they do well. So I'm definitely
a lot of people that game for him.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Sandy that's really stood out is just the efficiency, how efficient he's been in those 2 starts. Because I think Isaac mentioned this on Unfiltered when we did it this past week, or this week actually, when it was you really could have made the case that Sandy could have finished that opening day start as well. Like he could have had back-to-back complete games for the Marlins because he was averaging just about 10 pitches per game in that first start of the season, and then more or less the same in this last one, in that series finale against Chicago. So yeah, junk started that middle game. So yeah, I mean, Sandy's gonna be good. I would be, it's a good offense with the Reds. It'll be the best team he's faced so far, and then there's not really much competition there. I think the road for him gets a little tougher when he has to go to Detroit for his first road start and face a really good Tigers team. I know, albeit a pitcher-friendly ballpark, but I'm curious. I'm more curious about that start rather than this one, if I'm being totally honest with you.
Not as much on Tuesday's game is that he's going against Andrew Abbott. Like if you like pitching and defense, this is the game for you. Obviously, Abbott had an ERA under 3 last year, and it feels like every time he faces the Marlins, he carves them up. So I'm very intrigued. Whoever's covering Tuesday's game, you can make whatever plans you want after, because I think this is going to be a very quick one.
Have you seen Andrew Abbott pitch lately?
I mean, I'm just going off last year's stats.
Yeah.
So
the guy's undergone some serious issues since spring training and his first start, I believe, this year. He's been really, really bad, surprisingly so, because I do remember him. Obviously, last year had a great year, and then against the Marlins, he carved them up pretty badly. But no, I guess
3.09 ERA, Isaac. I don't know what you're talking about.
He had a good second start. His first start was bad, but his second start
the
was
Rhett Lauder Max Meyer matchup is going to be a lot of fun, and I think the Marlins also should say thank you to the gods or whoever they believe in, not having to face Chase Burns, because I think that's a guy that really would have carved up the Marlins. But I think that Rhett Lauder matchup against Max Meyer should be a lot of fun and should be really impactful to the Marlins, because Lauder is he's becoming for real.
Just looking at it from the Red side of things, Eli, we've already just noted it. It's kind of been, they're 6-3, just like the Marlins, so same record. I would say a lot of their success is on the pitching side, which is, I mean, I guess I'm surprised saying that because of where they play, but they've gotten a lot more out of their pitching, I think, so far than their offense. I mean, their offense has been pretty not good. I mean, 625 team OPS. So some guys that they still have to get going in that offense. So your outlook from the Red side of things as they come into a pitcher-friendly environment, at least most of the way, at Lone Depot Park.
Yeah, skipping quickly just to the offensive side, South Stewart is carrying such a big weight for them. Like it's for him as still a rookie eligible player to be doing what he's doing. He's kind of been one of the only bright spots for them on that side of the ball. Otherwise, Daniel mentioned it with Chase Burns as well. Like that's a guy that he has certainly the highest ceiling out of all their individual healthy starters, because they're doing this on the pitching side without actually Hunter Green. Hunter Green's out for the foreseeable future, I think, until the middle of the season as he recovers from a surgery there. And it's a deep bullpen, but actually their closer, Emilio Pagan, has gone off to an uneven start as well. And that's somebody individually that I kind of pointed to that I thought the Marlins should have gone after. I would prefer the Marlins sign Pagan over Fairbanks, and we'll see how that actually plays out overall, things considered. But yeah, Pagan is a guy that more often than not is going to close out games for them pretty well. And that was a strength of them last year. People might forget that this was a playoff team last year just because they were so quickly dismissed by the Dodgers once they actually got in there.
Yeah.
It was that was one of the more lopsided it was a short series because it was in the wild card round, but that was there was very little doubt once that actually got started, the direction that it was going to go right there. So yeah, with this Reds team, it's a pretty good one overall. They have about as good a manager as any in the game when it comes to Terry Francona. So that's you just give them the benefit of the doubt in so many different close game scenarios because of him. We've seen in the past that Ellie De La Cruz has had one particular amazing series against this team. I think it was 2 years ago in 2024, where he stole a gazillion bases and had a gazillion extra base hits in the same series against the Marlins. So with him, the talent there is so obvious as well. And as for people watching on YouTube, in terms of how hard he's hitting the ball at this moment, an average exit velo of close to 96 miles per hour at this stage of the season, even by his standards, that shows you that he's feeling pretty healthy after getting hurt at the end of last year. And we should point out that I think late in the offseason, when they brought back Eugenio Suarez on the deal that they did on just a 1-year commitment, that was a pretty savvy move overall. That we'll see how it plays out as the series goes on and as the season goes on as well. I think just generally it's going to be a very streaky offense, and it has been to already this point in the small sample size. But because they have guys like Ellie and Suarez that strike out a lot, it's just going to be a matter of whether you get them at a particular time when they're in a groove or whether they're not, because they can go through. If you get them at the right time, you go through a stretch where they could be a total non-factor offensively, and you could go through another period where they could destroy you. And really, once again, going back to Sal Stewart, it's hard to overstate how impressive he's been. And you see right there, more walks and strikeouts as well. The combination of damage that he does and also just his ability to swing at the right pitches and be really disciplined. He's a guy that's going to be right at the front of the Rookie of the Year conversation probably throughout the entire year in the National League.
Just to touch on, sorry,
No,
Carl, really, just to touch on Ethan O'Donnell. Yeah, after a pretty solid, encouraging spring, he's off to a little bit of a tough start in his Jacksonville career. He's 0-13.
No, he had a hit today.
Okay, you got a hit today?
I believe so.
He's one for change, so a little bit of a tough start for Ethan. And Dane, unfortunately, I'm not sure how much we'll see him this series. He's not starting against right-handed pitching for that team, so I guess obviously against left-handed relievers, maybe we'll get a couple at-bats, but I'm not sure if we'll see a start from the great Dane, who is clearly a fan favorite over his time, popular guy, who I think the Marlins could use right now. Pretty ironically, he could be leading off instead of Austin Slater, so nice to look back at that as a weird trade in the moment.
I guess we can get to one more thing in terms of what we just saw that we hope to not see again in this series, and that's improvements needed on the coaching side of things. We kind of already talked about it with pitch calling, but I do want to get to the two things that stood out to me and Isaac and Eli too, and all of us. Kevin, we were talking about it in our chat. What happened on a couple of these things tonight? Well, I'll get to this one first, where you walk the winning run on base against the Yankees, and he's going to bring in a lefty. Like you know that's going to happen. They have a guy on the bench that's a lefty, so it's not because of the splits, because they're going to call that bluff. So what sense does it make to put the winning run on base at Yankee Stadium in that game?
I think two things go into that decision. Obviously, it's always a very risky move for a manager to put the winning run at first base. Couple of things that I saw with a guy like Bender, I think of Wells. Austin Wells is a very dangerous guy for Bender to face in that situation with just his backdoor sweeper and slider. I think it would have been not easy, obviously, but it was a risk to let him face Wells, just hooking over the right field porch. So putting him on, you're going to face either Caballero or the lefty. I think you let them hit a home run, because in a ballpark like Yankee Stadium, it's hard for the winning run to score from first anyway. You just play the outfield back a little bit. It would have been a miracle for Wells to score on anything other than a home run. So I think you take your chances, take the bat out of Wells' hands, and hope that Caballero or JC Escara hit one out on you. And I think you take that chance any time of the day, any day of the week, twice on Sunday, because you're not going to let Wells beat you. So in that case, I think it made a little bit of sense, although I'm not sure if I would have had the cojones to do it. But Yankee Stadium, it's hard for someone to score from first in that ballpark. So I didn't hate the decision at the time.
It worked. But one thing that didn't work is the last thing I want to talk about with you guys. And we were talking about this. We had a little bit of a disagreement on this one, which I guess I can kind of see it from both sides now that it's settled. But in the moment with the Trent Grisham at bat, right, where you need a double play to get out of the inning, you have one out. I think it was runners at first and second.
This is game 2,
And
by the way, for those wondering.
you have runners at
This
first
is what
and second.
happened in the FOF
You-
chat. This is what
You have
this is what
Trent
happened.
Grisham at the plate, who, yes, is a pure pull hitter. Absolutely. That's all the guy does is pull the ball. Except for in this situation when you give him a glaring hole on the left side of the infield, and that ball would have gone straight to the shortstop. Instead, it winds up as a little dribbler, probably at like 50 miles an hour off the end of his bat, and it changes the game for the worst. So where is the line? Understanding analytic, Eli, I want to go to you on this because me and you disagreed on this, which is fair. Fine. We're allowed to disagree. We actually disagree on a lot of things baseball wise, but that's okay. We're allowed. Where is the line between analytics and split stats and just playing for the outs that you need? You noted to me that yes, and Clayton said it to you, I'm shading, which I think shading is a bad term because that was as close to a shift violation as he could have gotten because of where the shortstop was lined up, basically at second base. Like, where does the line between wanting to be analytical and playing simply for the outs that you need, where is that line?
Mm-hmm. I want to highlight this comment in the chat that I think is accurate. Marlins turned very few, if any, double plays during the course of the entire series, despite having so many batters on first base in those situations. And that was one spot where it didn't work out. I mean, ultimately, I really do find myself siding with how it is that this coaching staff operates. In fact, there was that discussion for a lot of last season that people may remember when they had the infield in so many different situations that were really bizarre, and that ended up backfiring it. I felt like that was a more gray area in terms of what they were doing in those situations. Whereas with this, as it really is just data based in terms of what they're doing, where it's you kind of add it all up. And I mean, the stats say what they do when it comes to this type of positioning, where for one batter or the other, that a lot of these hits that used to be available up the middle are being taken away, and it leads to a few that are getting in through the more traditional holes on either side of the infield as well. But it's a trade-off that works more often than not. And I think like this is a situation that, like so many other situations in the series, it was compounded by all the walks, the fact that they were putting all these base runners on in the first place. And that means that this seeing eye single through the left side actually did some damage when it wouldn't have done it otherwise. Yes, in this case, overall, I think it's all right. I think a lot of this also, some of the blame has to go on towards the players themselves. Like, this is a very weird weekend for Otto Lopez, where some makeable plays. I don't know how many errors he was actually charged with, but it seems like several plays over the course of this series where he was close to making it one way or the other, and the positioning maybe made a slight work to his detriment. In fact, the play that sticks out most is the Stanton go-ahead hit later in that same game, where just barely, just outside of his glove going up the middle. That was an opposite case where, I guess it kind of fits in the same mold, where they were once again shifting him to pole as well, with him being a right-handed hitter, and he was further away from the hole because of that. And he wasn't able to make it back in time to get that play, all things considered. So I think this was just a series where things did not go well from that standpoint, where the results that they got from their positioning choices were pretty poor. But to me, I really do think that they're making the most informed decisions that they can overall. And ultimately, we don't highlight these things if there are fewer walks and there are more strikeouts. If the ball isn't being put in play very often in the first place, then these are things that we overlooked, and they just need to pitch better. As much as this stuff does make a difference on the margins, like the pitching was just horrible as a whole over the course of these 3 games. And that kind of made them a bit fortunate to win even one, when they just got poor quality pitching to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it came down to. Then we can talk about the positioning. We can talk about the intentional walk. We can talk about all this stuff. And by the way, we had not talked about Connor Norby, who I don't think had a very good series. I know we all, I think, are somewhat in agreement on that, and I could let Isaac talk a little bit about that. But the Marlins walked 30 Yankees. That's the franchise record for a 3-game series. So that's not good. At the end of the day, that is not good. That is a veteran lineup that has been in a lot of situations, World Series, big moments in the playoffs, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's not going to get easier from here. You're going to obviously face a team that's worse, But you have then a team like Detroit Tigers, who've been in the playoffs. The Braves are a really good veteran team. Phillies are coming up too. It's not going to get easy. It's not easier from here. So, you got to pitch better at the end of the day. And I think that's what it came down to. The Marlins out-hit the Yankees through the first 2 games. The Marlins scored 7 runs in the second game. You would have thought that's enough, right? But they lost 2 games. And as much as you want to say it's the bad defensive alignment, the walk, the intentional walks, the pass balls, you can't walk 30 guys in 3 games. That's just, you don't win baseball games like that. You can't win a game like that. They did somehow, but you can't win a series like that, and you can't stay above 500 like that, walking 30 guys. That can't happen at all.
Of course, there are circumstances that lead to what happening. I just think that they just understanding that, yes, this is a pull hitter, understanding that, yes, maybe the guy won't score from first base. It's just like you're getting to the realm of possibility where you're just doing too much to yourself. And at the end of the day, beating yourself. We had a comment on the bottom of the screen. You can't cherry pick because they made a play up the middle. Yeah, they made a play up the middle. And yes, maybe his idea with positioning worked in that specific scenario. But me and Isaac were talking about this yesterday. I mean, at the end of the day, I would much rather lose and make a player earn a hit up the middle than lose the way that they lost in that situation with Grisham getting that hit. I mean, it's just embarrassing to lose that way. And, all losses count the same in the record book. Yeah, but man, there's just better ways to lose games, I guess is what I mean to say. That may be an oxymoron, but there's better ways to lose than that. That's what I was getting at.
They should have technically taken 2 out of 3, right? When you think about it, I mean, they should have beat.
They had every chance to, and they beat themselves in a lot of ways. So pitching didn't do them any favors.
That was one of the most frustrating games to watch because of how things went in that game. The pitching wasn't good after Max. You get the pass balls. We spoke about the defensive alignment for a bit, but it was just so frustrating to watch.
And it didn't really, if we're going to talk about sloppiness as a whole, it really didn't stop on defense either. I mean, the base running mistakes, they have to stop. I mean, it's Major League Baseball players. It felt like we were watching high school JV games, 30 watts, 3-game series. I mean, I think the Yankees scored 4 runs on pass balls, and Heriberto getting picked off on first base. Yeah. When you have a chance to take the lead with your run, it's a lefty move. You've been playing baseball for almost 20 years. You've seen lefty moves. I'm sorry, I'm getting worked up. But you're a professional baseball player. You've seen lefty moves before. That can't happen. Augustine keeps falling asleep on the base pass. That's what can't happen. I think that's the most infuriating thing. Like, the Marlins really held their own against this Yankees team after whatever Isaac getting the stuff on foul territory. But, it's the White Sox and the Rockies, this and that. And we hear it every day on Twitter, wherever it is. But the Marlins held their own this series with their 2, 3, 4 guys against the Yankees. It's the Yankees. It doesn't matter who they are. But it is a little infuriating. The Marlins are lucky to have won 1 game, but they should have won 2, in my opinion. So you got to clean that stuff up moving forward.
And the other frustrating part is that Heriberto and Ramirez were both told to work on one thing this offseason, and it was to improve their base running. I'm not saying to be faster, just make smarter decisions, get the first to third, don't get picked off. And they're both off to really tough starts this year on the base paths. And this is a team that just cannot surrender any outs here. Like that, in a situation where Heriberto got picked off against Fried, it was a pretty good move by Fried, but the guy was leaning. That just cannot happen in a Major League Baseball game in a situation where you're trying to salvage a game in the series. It would have been a very tough loss to swallow if they had fallen today.
Well, it's a tough series though. Tough series.
And you even look at the first game, the way that the way the game ended, because they were going to lose. Augustin Ramirez getting picked off at second base and then doing the finger wag as if he was like safe. He was clearly out. He was out by a mile.
Kids love to do, every player, I swear to God, even though they're out by a mile, like everyone will do that.
I mean,
they'll say, check it. Like, dude, you're out by 15 feet. It's so funny.
We didn't even talk about the umpiring in this last game, like the auto play, a home play. How do you call him safe? Anyway, I'm not going to get into it. Anyway,
well, Heriberto was called safe on the kickoff, and he was clearly out, like very out.
I mean, maybe it's a product, not to make fun of this, and I'm not making fun of it. Maybe it was a product of him hitting the head too much behind the plate or something. I don't know. This is a weird series.
It was a rough weekend for that entire crew.
Yeah, rough week. I mean, they got beat up too back there.
Legit,
they didn't do themselves any favors with some of the calls, but at least they got it right. That's why we have replay. That's why Gus had ABS 5 times, and we move on. Prediction time. Hit it, Eli.
This is prediction time. That's my prediction, but who knows?
The Marlins welcoming the Reds, 4-game series starting with Jansen Junk tomorrow before a long road stretch. I think 2 series on the road. But back home for 4 games. Let's see what happens here. I think 2 similar teams. I think they match up pretty similarly. But talk about it real quick. We'll go first to Daniel Rodriguez. Who do you got winning the series in 4 games? Or are we going to go with the special split? And who's the MVP?
All right. Starting off here for prediction, I have as a split, like you mentioned, you got 2 evenly matched teams. I think they're going to split it right down the middle, and my MVP is hometown boy South Stewart. Like you guys mentioned before, hometown players tend to do pretty well when they come back here to Miami. I think we'll have a really great series.
Kevin Barral.
I feel like Sandy was robbed of an MVP pick, by the way, in that White Sox series. Looking back at it with a complete game, just needed to mention that now we're on prediction time. But I think it'll be a series split. Daniel took my pick of South Stewart, so I'm going to go with Max Meyer. I'm feeling good about it. The final game of the series. Remember last time he faced the Reds, he struck out 14. So not saying he's going to do that again, but I think he'll have a really good start, and I think he'll keep building off of what he did against the Yankees.
Nate.
Yeah, first 4-gamer of the year. I'm going to continue the trend, which we're probably going to see throughout the entire rest of this season, to be honest. I'm going to go with the split. I think the Marlins will take tomorrow and Tuesday's games, but I'm not too confident about the final 2, especially the last one. For MVP, I love the South Stewart pick, but Jacob Marcy has been taking really good at-bats recently and not really seeing a lot of results, but he did walk twice today. Pretty much got both rallies started for the Marlins in those late innings. So I think some of his hits are going to start to drop, might steal you a bat or 2. He's the MVP.
I will go next, and I actually like the Marlins in this series. I think the pitching tips in their favor a little bit. The Reds offense, as I mentioned before, hasn't gotten going just yet, and I don't think they do it at Lone Depot Park. I think Yuri bounces back. I think Meyer builds off of what we just saw. I think Sandy. I think the Marlins win the series 3-1, and series MVP, let's keep it with X. He's been the man. Isaac.
4-game set at home. I think it's going to be a really fun homestand for Miami, considering they're coming off a win in New York. Miami will take 3 out of 4. I'll go bold. My MVP is going to be Otto Lopez. A couple left-handers on the mound for Cincinnati. I think he'll have a couple big hits.
Eli Sussman, the founder, to close us out.
Uh-huh. Oh, man. What do I want to do here? I'm gonna. When in doubt, I go negative with my series prediction. So I'll go with the Reds taking 3 out of 4 over what should be very hotly contested games, all things considered, but lower scoring certainly than the ones that we saw this past weekend at Yankee Stadium. All of them taking 3 out of 4 in this one. With series MVP. Yeah, unfortunately, with old friend Dane Myers, I don't think he's going to be in the lineup very often going against these righties, so that kind of rules him out. And South Stewart seems a little bit too obvious. I'll go with Mr. Gritty, Mr. TJ Friedel. He is the quintessential pain in the butt sort of player, and somebody that will be, I imagine, in the lineup almost every game. He's gone off to a very slow start from a batting average department, so kind of the same philosophy as those who see Marcy as due to get some of his own hits. I think Friedel falls into that same bucket. But even if that awful scenario plays out, the Marlins would still be over 500 moving into their next road trip. So keep it into perspective how feisty this Marlins team has been early on.
Ellie De La Cruz is a Marlins killer, so I'm surprised no one took him because the last 2 years he had here in Miami was one to remember.
See what happens this week. Hopefully Sandy gets his fans out to the park. If you're able to, go see this team play. They're fun, and they'll keep you on your toes for sure. We'll be there to cover it. We should have people there for every game of this series before the Marlins go on a long road trip. So check us out at the park. Check us out on the website. Minor league season also in full throw. We didn't even get to that really in this show. Maybe for our next series preview, which will be coming up later in the week. But for now, that's our show after a hectic weekend series. See what the Marlins can do against the Reds. Isaac Azu, Kevin Barral, Nate Karsmer, Eli Sussman. We had Alex Krutchik here. We have Daniel Rodriguez and myself, Alex Carver. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Fish on First live on the Foul Territory Network, presented by Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida. We'll see you guys on the next show. Go Fish.